When Emily Saunders found out she was pregnant, her heart soared with hope. She imagined her husband, the wealthy and charismatic Marcus Saunders, holding their child for the very first time, tears of joy glistening in his eyes. She believed they were about to embark on a thrilling new chapter of their extraordinary love story. But the moment she revealed her pregnancy, the very foundation of their opulent life cracked beneath her feet. One unexpected twist after another sent Emily's carefully constructed reality spiraling out of control until a shocking DNA test in the hospital's sterile corridors turned everyone's world upside down. Emily Saunders. Born Emily Reeves, grew up in the sleepy town of Fairview. Despite her humble beginnings, Emily always possessed an air of quiet confidence and a secret ambition to change her destiny. In her early 20s, she landed a job as an executive assistant at Lucent Holdings, a multinational real estate firm. It was there she first crossed paths with Marcus Saunders, charismatic handsome, and one of the firm's most successful young entrepreneurs. Marcus was the kind of man people noticed from across a crowded room. Tall, with bronze skin and a broad smile that seemed ever-present, he lived for the thrill of closing deals and expanding his ever-growing empire. Rumor had it that Marcus came from old money. His father, Graham Saunders, once served on the board of a legendary bank in London, giving Marcus powerful connections from an early age. By the time Emily met him, Marcus was already a millionaire many times over, thanks to his savvy investments and relentless drive. For Emily, his confidence and intellect were magnetic. Their office courtship was the stuff of corporate gossip, whispered conversations in the hallways, stolen glances across the conference table, late nights working side by side on proposals that were far more than just business. When Marcus proposed, it was after a romantic dinner in the heart of New York City. He slipped a modest but elegant diamond ring on her finger, promising she would never want for anything. Emily, her heart pounding, said yes. In that moment, she felt like the luckiest woman in the world. Their marriage ceremony the following summer was the talk of the town. Held at the expansive Saunders family estate in Connecticut, it was a lavish garden affair under flower-laden arches and twinkling fairy lights. Emily's family and friends from Fairview could hardly believe their eyes. The reporters invited by Marcus's publicity team captured every blissful moment, the proud father of the bride walking Emily down the aisle, the couple's first dance beneath a canopy of stars, the affectionate toast offered by Marcus's mother Vivian, who praised Emily's kindness and strong spirit. In the months that followed, Emily settled into a life that many could only dream of. She managed the household staff, redecorated their penthouse in Manhattan, and hosted charity events that garnered flattering coverage in magazines like Society Luxe. Though she enjoyed the frequent galas and weekend getaways, what she cherished most was the sense of partnership she found with Marcus. They were a united front, both in love and in business, forging expansions for Lucent Holdings and planning philanthropic initiatives. It was demanding, exciting, and fulfilling, and Emily truly believed they were a power couple meant to conquer life's challenges side by side. Still, in the quiet moments of early morning or late at night, Emily sometimes felt a lingering fear. What if this dream ended? She'd seen the power of money ruin marriages before. She'd heard stories from colleagues about extramarital affairs and secret bank accounts. Every time those uncertainties arose in her mind, she would push them back, reminding herself of Marcus's devotion. He had proven it time and time again. Then one bright morning, after she'd missed her period for the second month in a row, Emily's life changed forever. A quick pregnancy test in the gilded bathroom of their Manhattan penthouse showed 2 pink lines. Stunned and exhilarated, she confirmed it at the doctor's office. After years of subtle longing, she was going to be a mother. Approaching Marcus with the news felt like a moment out of a fairy tale. She spent hours wondering how best to tell him. Should she present him with baby shoes at dinner? Slip the ultrasound picture under his morning coffee mug? In her mind, she pictured him pulling her into a tight embrace, tears glimmering in his eyes. After all, this was the next step in their extraordinary life together. But Marcus's reaction was a subdued, "That's wonderful news," accompanied by a tight-lipped smile that didn't reach his eyes. Emily tried to tell herself he was caught off guard, that big changes often need time to settle. Yet the next few days only intensified her unease. Marcus seemed withdrawn, staying out later than usual, and offering half-hearted excuses. The radiant glow of the life they had built began to flicker with the first warning sign of a storm she never saw coming. Marcus's transformation was subtle. At first he would brush off Emily's attempts to talk about prenatal appointments, attributing his lack of interest to a busy schedule. Then came the missed dinners. He used to call if he was running late, but now the silence was deafening as the hours ticked by. Emily tried to reason with herself. Perhaps he was just overwhelmed by the prospect of fatherhood. Many men found the concept of becoming a dad daunting. But as the weeks wore on, Emily's attempts to engage Marcus about the baby met with deflection and frustration. Even worse, he seemed to be actively avoiding her. He started traveling more often, jetting off to Florida or California for urgent investment matters. While Emily had long understood that business was his lifeblood, she also knew Marcus was adept at delegating when needed. Something was amiss, and it unnerved her more with each passing day. To keep her mind occupied, Emily threw herself into baby preparation. She redesigned a sunlit room on the penthouse's 2nd floor, transforming it into a peaceful nursery with cream-colored walls and whimsical paintings of baby animals. She took prenatal vitamins, tried prenatal yoga, and stayed in close contact with her obstetrician, Dr. Miriam Swanson, a warm, reassuring presence in her life. Emily cherished those visits. In that quiet, sterile environment, listening to the soft whoosh of her baby's heartbeat through the Doppler monitor, she felt a sense of unbreakable hope. During one of these appointments, while Emily lay on the exam table, Dr. Swanson asked about Marcus. "I haven't seen your husband around lately. I'm sure he's thrilled about the baby." Emily swallowed hard. "He's busy. Work has been demanding," she lied. Though Dr. Swanson offered a gentle, knowing nod, Emily felt an uncomfortable pang of guilt. She hated lying, but more than that, she hated admitting something was wrong. Outside the medical office, life at Lucent Holdings presented a different sort of tension. Emily still occasionally attended board meetings or philanthropic luncheons to represent the Saunders name. Gossip circulated among the staff whispers that Marcus had been spotted in exclusive clubs with a mysterious companion, that he laughed more easily in those outings than he ever did at the office these days. Emily tried to brush off the rumors as idle chatter. The dam finally broke at a charity gala hosted by the Saunders family at the Ridgeway Hotel, a grand old building known for its crystal chandeliers and plush red carpeting. Emily arrived early to help organize silent auction items, greet guests, and check last-minute details. She had chosen a graceful evening gown that accommodated her growing bump, determined to portray a confident, poised image despite her lingering anxieties. As the night progressed, she noticed Marcus's absence. He had promised to attend but was nowhere to be found. Emily tried calling and texting him, receiving only terse responses. Running late or work emergency. By 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Though many of the city's elite were mingling in the gilded ballroom, Emily found herself scanning the crowd for Marcus with mounting desperation. Suddenly, a soft hum of speculation rippled through the guests near the entrance. Emily turned to see Marcus stepping into the ballroom, and not alone. A tall, striking brunette in a shimmering midnight blue gown clung to his arm. They laughed softly, oblivious to the stares they were receiving. Marcus leaned in to whisper something in her ear, and the woman threw her head back with exaggerated delight. The moment felt like a punch to Emily's gut. Time slowed down. She could see acquaintances and colleagues casting furtive glances at her, pity etched in their eyes. Gritting her teeth, Emily mustered every ounce of composure and walked toward her husband. Her mind raced. Perhaps it was just a business associate. Perhaps it was someone from the art world or real estate circle who needed an invitation. But the way Marcus's hand lingered at the small of the woman's back told a different story. "Marcus, Emily," said, voice shaking slightly. "I'm glad you made it." He turned, the forced smile on his face faltering for a second when he saw Emily. He cleared his throat and made a hasty introduction. "This is Nicole Anderson. She's working with us on a new property acquisition." Emily forced a polite smile, though her heart hammered so loudly she was certain everyone could hear it. "Nice to meet you, Nicole," she managed, before turning back to Marcus. "Could I speak with you for a moment?" Nicole graciously stepped aside, sensing the tension. Marcus followed Emily to a quieter corner of the lobby, where she immediately hissed, "What are you doing? And why would you bring her here?" His eyes flickered with annoyance. "She's an investor. We've been in talks for months. This gala is the perfect opportunity for networking." Despite her shock, Emily struggled to maintain composure. She nodded stiffly. "Fine, but you might have warned me." Marcus gave a dismissive shrug. "I'm sorry if you felt blindsided. It's been a chaotic week." They returned to the ballroom, Emily's pulse still racing. The rest of the evening was a blur as Emily plastered a brittle smile across her face, ignoring the sympathy in the eyes of her friends and acquaintances. Nicole Anderson stayed close to Marcus's side, her perfectly arched eyebrows and icy confidence only exacerbating the swirling suspicion in Emily's mind. The following day, Emily confronted Marcus in the penthouse living room. The sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows illuminated the tension between them. She couldn't tolerate the secrecy and emotional distance any longer. "Enough is enough," she began, voice trembling. "I need you to tell me what's really going on, Marcus." He looked up from his phone, brows furrowed. "What do you mean? You were glued to that woman's side all night. You've been acting strange since we found out about the baby. I can't live in the dark anymore." Marcus let out a heavy sigh. "Emily, you need to trust me on this. I'm under a lot of pressure. Nicole is an important part of a major deal I've been working on. I can't afford to lose her support." "That doesn't explain your behavior. You're pushing me away. You barely come home at a decent hour. You don't even want to talk about the baby." He ran a hand through his hair, looking a mix of frustrated and defensive. "It's complicated. We're both busy. Stop making it sound like I'm entirely at fault here." Emily felt tears prick at her eyes. She wanted to scream at him that no business deal should overshadow their marriage and unborn child. But she also didn't want to push him further away. So she took a deep breath and said, "Then help me understand. I want to be on your side." Marcus set his phone down, exhaling slowly. Look, Nicole and I. We've grown close. She's had ideas, insights, and connections that are invaluable. That's all I can say. It wasn't the outright confession of an affair, but it was enough to shatter Emily's illusions. That single statement, "we've grown close," hung in the air like a poisonous vapor. In her heart, she knew there was more, but it seemed Marcus wasn't willing to offer clarity. The conversation ended with Marcus storming off to his home office, leaving Emily trembling in a flood of heartbreak and dread. Over the next few weeks, the emotional distance only widened. Emily, determined to uncover the truth, decided to confide in an unlikely ally, her best friend from Fairview, Sarah Macmillan. Sarah was a journalist for a local newspaper, known for her relentless pursuit of facts. Though she loved Emily, like a sister, Sarah had always been wary of Marcus, suspecting that his business dealings and public persona were too slick to be entirely genuine. When Emily poured out her worries during a tearful phone call, Sarah didn't hesitate. If you want to know more about Nicole Anderson, I can try to dig around. At least we'll see if she's really an investor or something more complicated." Emily agreed, though the thought of what she might learn terrified her. Late nights found her pacing the penthouse, imagining Marcus and Nicole together in exclusive clubs or at luxurious resorts, her heart aching with every step. Sarah's investigative instincts paid off. Within a week, she sent Emily a folder of collected information on Nicole Anderson. She was indeed a wealthy investor from Los Angeles, rumored to have friendly relationships with powerful men. A few photos surfaced online, grainy images of Nicole exiting expensive restaurants with older, wealthy businessmen. The pictures had no context, but the pattern raised suspicion. As Emily sifted through the material, her eyes landed on a candid shot taken outside a 5-star hotel in Miami. Nicole's head was tilted up toward a man who seemed suspiciously like Marcus. Though his face was partially obscured by a baseball cap, Emily recognized the posture and faint curve of his jaw. In the photograph, Nicole had her hand pressed intimately against his chest. Emily's stomach churned. It was real. Her worst fears validated. In that moment, despair gave way to fury. She confronted Marcus with the photograph later that night. "You lied to me," she said, voice trembling with anger. "This is you and Nicole at the Mayfair in Miami. You told me you were there for a conference, but this looks like a date." Marcus's face hardened. He glanced at the picture, then back at Emily. His next words felt like daggers. "So what if it was? My life is my own. I'm tired of feeling smothered, Emily. You want to track my every move like some warden." "Smothered?" Emily asked, appalled. "I'm your wife, and that's your child I'm carrying." His expression was cold, unrecognizable. "I didn't sign up for this. I never asked for a child right now. I'm not ready to be a father. And if you can't support my ambitions, maybe we should part ways." The air rushed out of Emily's lungs as though she'd been punched. Her fury softened into a hollow, stunned pain. She had expected arguments, she had even prepared for the possibility of an affair, but she never imagined Marcus might abandon her, especially while she was pregnant. Gritting her teeth, she whispered, "Don't do this." Marcus's voice remained dangerously calm. "Nicole understands me. She understands what I want out of life. And maybe it's best you go home to Fairview, stay with your folks until the baby's born. You'll get better peace and quiet there." Emily's world crumbled. He was essentially throwing her out of her own home, The grandeur of the penthouse with its glossy marble floors and towering windows made her feel suddenly small and displaced. She fled to her bedroom, sobs racking her body as Marcus retreated to the study without a hint of remorse. Within days, Emily moved out of the penthouse. She packed only the essentials: clothes, personal items, her laptop, and the precious ultrasound images that reminded her, even amidst betrayal, there was something beautiful at stake. With nowhere else to go, she turned to her parents in Fairview. Her mother, Annalise Reeves, welcomed her with open arms and teary eyes, and her father, Thomas Reeves, offered quiet support that she found deeply comforting. Her childhood home felt both safe and alien. While her old bedroom brought back warm memories of teenage years, it also underscored how far she had come and how abruptly she'd been forced to return. Emily tried to mask her heartbreak for her parents' sake, but her mother's worried glances were near constant reminders that the stress she carried could harm her pregnancy. Annalise insisted Emily schedule regular checkups, at least until she got back on her feet. With a resigned nod, Emily visited the local clinic in Fairview under the care of Dr. Harriet Collins, a gentle older physician who remembered Emily as a bright-eyed girl with dreams of leaving town. "I see you've been through a lot, dear," Dr. Collins said softly at their first appointment, placing a reassuring hand on Emily's arm. "You need rest and emotional support. Stress is the last thing you need right now." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. "I know. It's just, everything I worked for, everything I believed in is falling apart, and I feel like I have no control." Dr. Collins offered a kind smile. "Focus on what matters: your health and this baby. The rest will sort itself out in time." Despite the doctor's comforting words, Emily could not quell the sense of betrayal and confusion gnawing at her. The child was Marcus's, and she believed that wholeheartedly. They had tried casually for a baby months earlier, so it wasn't entirely unexpected. But the way Marcus responded, indifferent, even resentful, clashed with the man she thought she knew. One evening, about a month after she returned to Fairview, she received a surprising phone call from Marcus's mother, Vivian Saunders. Vivian had always been cordial, if somewhat distant. Emily recalled Vivian's words on her wedding day. "Welcome to the family, dear. We expect great things from you and Marcus." She wondered if the older woman's desire for great things factored into Marcus's ruthless pursuit of success. "My dear Emily," Vivian said, her refined accent unwavering, "I just heard from a friend that you've moved back to Fairview. Is everything all right?" Emily, exhausted from crying earlier in the day, chose her words carefully. "Marcus and I are having problems, Mrs. Saunders. He wants me out of the penthouse, and so I came here." A delicate pause, then I see. "And how far along are you now?" 17 weeks, Emily answered, her hand unconsciously drifting to her still small belly. "You must take care of yourself for the baby's sake." Vivian's voice turned stern. "Marcus can be impetuous. His father was the same way. Perhaps he's just confused or misguided." Emily doubted that, but she merely said, "I hope so." There was another long silence, as though Vivian was weighing her words. "Listen, Emily, the Saunders family does not abandon its own. I'd like to meet with you. I'm currently in Fairview handling some personal matters. Would you join me for tea at the Rosewood Inn tomorrow?" Despite her reservations, Emily agreed. She craved any reassurance about Marcus's capacity to change his mind. She also suspected Vivian might be her best shot at bridging the chasm that had opened between them. The next afternoon, Emily arrived at the Rosewood Inn, a quaint Victorian-style cafe, with lace curtains and porcelain teacups. Vivian sat at a corner table, dressed elegantly in a tailored navy suit, her pearl earrings gleaming in the soft light. Her grey hair was swept back into a neat chignon, and her expression revealed little emotion. Yet as Emily approached, Vivian's features softened. "You look well, considering the circumstances," she began, gesturing for Emily to sit. They exchanged pleasantries, ordered tea and small sandwiches. Emily stiffened when Vivian finally got to the point. Marcus mentioned a possibility, that the child might not be his. Emily froze, her heartbeat hammering in her ears. What she managed shock coursing through her. "That's absurd. Marcus and I were together. I've never been unfaithful." Vivian's gaze dropped. "I believe you, dear." But he apparently told Nicole otherwise. He claimed that your marriage was strained, that you had, well, men on the side, if you'll forgive my bluntness. Emily's hands shook, anger and betrayal flooding her senses. "I can't believe this," she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. "He's lying, trying to justify throwing me out." Vivian patted Emily's hand. "I'm inclined to agree, but Marcus has always been headstrong. He's so deep in this relationship with Nicole that he needs an excuse not to face what he's done. It's easier for him to blame you. But rest assured, I've told him he's making a mistake." Emily's breath caught in her throat. She was grateful for Vivian's support, but the weight of Marcus's accusations threatened to break her spirit. She had never imagined such betrayal, that her own husband would cast doubt on her fidelity to cover up his affair. Vivian leaned forward, lowering her voice. "You'll need to protect yourself, Emily. If he continues like this, he may push for a paternity test. You should be prepared." A swirling mix of fear and resolve brewed inside Emily. Let him test, she thought defiantly. He'll see the truth. Yet the knowledge that Marcus's mistrust had stooped to such a level was painful beyond words. She parted ways with Vivian that day, uncertain of what the future held, but more determined than ever to protect her child from the fallout of Marcus's ruthless ambition and toxic lies. Despite the heartbreak, Emily made the best of her time in Fairview. She helped her mother with household chores, took gentle walks around the neighborhood to stay active, and found solace in reading pregnancy books. Slowly, she rebuilt a sense of stability. Her baby's growing presence was her one constant source of hope. Late one afternoon, as she returned from a prenatal appointment with Dr. Collins, she found her father pacing the living room, a worried expression etched on his face. "Emily," he said softly, "there's a letter for you." He handed her a crisp white envelope bearing the embossed logo of a prominent New York law firm. Her stomach dropped. She opened it with trembling fingers and read the short, impersonal lines. Marcus Saunders had initiated divorce proceedings. The letter also requested a paternity test to confirm that the child was indeed his. Emily's eyes welled with tears. There it was, in black and white, the final blow to their marriage and his brazen challenge to her honor. An outraged Thomas Reeves took the letter, scanned it, and shook his head. "My little girl, you don't have to face this alone," he said, voice cracking with suppressed fury. "We'll get a good lawyer." But inside, Emily felt numb. She had dreaded this moment, yet now that it was here, she experienced a hollow kind of resignation. "I'll do the paternity test," she said quietly. "He can't deny responsibility once the truth is out." And so, with her parents' unwavering support, she contacted a reputable lawyer named Denise Caldwell, a fair but fiercely intelligent woman with a track record of defending the rights of the vulnerable. Denise recommended a specialized clinic where the prenatal paternity test could be done through a non-invasive procedure analyzing fetal DNA in Emily's bloodstream alongside a swab from Marcus. Reaching Marcus proved difficult. Calls and messages went unanswered, as though he were deliberately avoiding contact. Only when Denise threatened legal action did he finally respond, his tone icy. "Fine," he snapped over a terse phone call. "If she wants to do the test, she can come to New York. I've arranged an appointment at St. Adalbert's Hospital. I'll be there with my lawyer." Emily's heart pounded. The prospect of seeing Marcus again, especially under such circumstances, filled her with both dread and determination. If this was what it took for him to stop slandering her, then so be it. The day of the test arrived grey and drizzly. Emily entered the pristine lobby of St. Adalbert's Hospital, clutching a folder of medical records. By her side stood Denise, exuding calm professionalism. As they approached the designated floor, Emily spotted Marcus and Nicole standing together in a hallway, along with another attorney, who exuded the same frosty arrogance. Marcus's face was unreadable, but Nicole's lips curled into a faint, condescending smile. Emily felt her blood boil at the sight of the woman who had contributed to the destruction of her marriage. She focused instead on controlling her breathing for the baby's sake. They convened in a private examination room, sterile and bathed in fluorescent light. A doctor from the hospital's genetics department explained the procedure. Emily's blood would be drawn, and Marcus would provide a cheek swab. Once the test was complete, results would take some days to process. Nicole leaned against the wall, crossing her arms. "Is this really necessary? We all know how certain tests can be manipulated," she said, an edge in her voice. Denise bristled. "Excuse me. Ms. Anderson, are you insinuating that this respected hospital staff would commit fraud?" Nicole shrugged. "I'm just saying you never know." Emily clenched her fists. She refused to respond to Nicole's taunts. Instead, she allowed the medical staff to draw her blood and then watched as Marcus swabbed the inside of his cheek. He wore a neutral expression throughout, as though this entire event was a mere inconvenience. The tension in the room was suffocating. When it was done, the group disbanded. Marcus left without so much as a goodbye, Nicole trailing him closely. Emily felt a confusing mixture of sadness and relief. She hoped that once the test results proved that this child was his, perhaps he would at least cease his legal assault on her. But a deeper part of her knew that Marcus's betrayal went far beyond doubt of paternity. As the days stretched on while they awaited the DNA test results, Emily fought an internal battle. She oscillated between wanting Marcus to repent and longing to never see him again. Each day she found some measure of strength in the steady support of her parents, the listening ear of her best friend Sarah, and the fluttering movements of her baby, a reminder that new life was taking shape amidst all the turmoil. Then late on a Tuesday afternoon, Emily's phone rang. The number displayed belonged to the hospital. She hesitated, steeling herself before answering. "Ms. Saunders," an official-sounding voice said. "We have your paternity test results. Could you come in tomorrow at 9 in the morning to review them in person?" Emily agreed, her heart hammering. She alerted Denise, who insisted on joining her. After an anxious, sleepless night, Emily woke early and made the drive back to St. Adalbert's. She tried to calm her swirling mind. This was a standard procedure. She had nothing to hide. And once the truth was out, perhaps the divorce proceedings could be navigated more fairly. When she arrived at the genetics department waiting room, she saw Marcus and Nicole already seated. Marcus looked every inch the poised businessman, hair immaculately styled, dressed in a tailored suit. Nicole, her expression smug, wore a designer outfit that seemed more suited to a cocktail party than a hospital visit. Emily swallowed her bitterness and sat down with Denise. A few minutes later, a solemn-faced genetic counselor, Dr. Mark Rosenberg, emerged and beckoned them into a private consultation room. They sat around a small table, nerves on edge. Dr. Rosenberg opened a file, cleared his throat, and spoke quietly but firmly. "We have the results. According to the analysis, the probability of Marcus Saunders being the father of this fetus is—" He paused, glancing at the papers. 0%. Silence blanketed the room. Emily's brain struggled to process the statement. 0%. That was impossible. She felt her cheeks flush, her heart pounding in her ears. Nicole's eyes widened momentarily. Then she let out a slight, triumphant exhale. Marcus stiffened his expression, transitioning from surprise to something akin to vindication. Denise immediately leaned forward. "There must be a mistake," she said. "Emily has always maintained that Marcus is the father." Dr. Rosenberg tapped his pen on the table, looking uneasy. "I rechecked the data myself. According to this test, Mr. Saunders cannot be the biological father of Miss Saunders's unborn child." Marcus turned to Emily, a cold, victorious glint in his eyes. "I knew it," he said. Voice shaking with anger he barely contained. "All this time, you were lying." Emily felt tears threaten to spill, confusion warring with indignation. "That can't be right," she cried. There must be an error." Nicole smirked. "Somebody's been busy," she said with false sympathy. Denise immediately began demanding details about chain of custody, lab protocol, potential mix-ups. Dr. Rosenberg maintained that the lab followed strict procedures, but offered to run a second test if needed. Emily felt the room spin. She had nothing to hide. She had never been unfaithful. How could science lie? She spoke up, voice trembling. "I want another test. Something is wrong here. I've never been with anyone but Marcus." Marcus stood, staring down at Emily, with an expression of contempt so fierce it bordered on hatred. "Save it. I'm done. We'll see the divorce through. No settlement, no money. As far as I'm concerned, you played me for a fool." He stalked from the room. Nicole cast Emily a last pitying glance before following the click of her heels echoing in the hallway. Emily's world, already shattered, seemed to collapse further. Even Denise was at a loss for words, though she tried to console Emily, insisting that lab errors, though rare, do happen. Yet the official nature of the test results, with a big, bold "excluded" typed beside Marcus's name, felt devastatingly final. The weeks that followed the disastrous paternity test were some of the darkest in Emily's life. The emotional bruises ran deeper than the betrayal itself. She had trusted Marcus not just with her heart, but with her future, their child's future. And yet he had turned that trust into a weapon, wielding it to justify abandoning her and trying to erase his responsibility from her life entirely. Her return to Fairview had been quiet, somber. Friends from her childhood offered well-meaning platitudes, but only her parents truly understood the depth of the devastation. Thomas sat with her for long hours, just holding her hand, while she stared blankly out the window. Annalise busied herself in the kitchen, baking and boiling tea, and trying to keep the house warm and full of comfort. But no amount of cinnamon cookies or soft quilts could dull the ache Emily carried. The paternity test had said Marcus wasn't the father. But Emily knew that was a lie. And as her body changed, her belly swelling her ankles, aching her back, tightening, she was reminded every hour of the life growing inside her. A life conceived in what she believed was love. She refused to let that love be rewritten into shame. Sarah, ever the fighter, was the only one unwilling to accept the test results at face value. She had sensed something rotten from the beginning. It wasn't just about Marcus's betrayal, it was about the unlikelihood of such a perfectly timed test result delivered from a hospital conveniently funded by a mysterious private donor. "This smells like damage control," Sarah muttered one afternoon. Her laptop open, fingers tapping in furious rhythm. Like someone wanted to erase your child from Marcus's life, clean and simple. Emily lifted her tired eyes from her cup of tea. "Even if it was tampered with, what can we do? It's his word against mine. And I already look like the desperate ex." Sarah looked up sharply. "No. You look like a woman who was lied to, manipulated, and then publicly humiliated. That makes you dangerous to them. So they made sure the story went their way." It was that determination that led to Sarah's next breakthrough. She found the name Raymond Clark buried in a newsletter from St. Adalbert's internal HR board technician, terminated for breach of lab protocol. Fired 2 weeks after Emily's DNA test. Curious timing. With Denise Caldwell's help, they tracked him down. Raymond Clark lived in a low-income apartment in a sketchy part of Brooklyn. When they reached out, he initially refused to speak. "It's not safe," he'd said, his voice trembling on the phone. "I shouldn't even be talking to you." But guilt had a way of loosening tongues. 3 days later, he agreed to meet. Emily. Sarah and Denise waited in the corner booth of a run-down diner, where the neon sign buzzed with fatigue and the coffee tasted like burnt tar. When Raymond arrived, he looked like he hadn't slept in days. Gaunt hunched his eyes, darting around as though someone was following him. "I don't have much time," he said, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "These are chain of custody logs. From your test." They were altered. Denise opened the folder slowly. The documents inside were damning discrepancies in sample handling, overlapping timestamps, missing initials where there should have been confirmation of procedure. But the smoking gun was a copied internal email. A lab supervisor had approved a manual override on the analysis, something that should never happen in paternity testing. "I saw your name on the original forms," Raymond continued. "But someone switched the samples. I didn't know why, until I saw the donation come through. 100 grand anonymously. But I knew the name on the bank paperwork, Marcus Saunders." Emily felt her stomach churn. Her hands tightened into fists beneath the table. "He paid them to fake it," she whispered. "He wanted the test to say he wasn't the father." Raymond nodded. "I was told to stay quiet. When I refused, they pushed me out. But I kept copies of everything. I couldn't let it slide." Denise exhaled slowly. "With this, we can prove the first test was fraudulent. The hospital will have no choice but to respond." And they did. Within a week of being served notice of pending legal action, St. Adalbert's Hospital issued a public statement. A procedural error had resulted in a misidentified paternity result. Multiple staff had been placed on leave. Raymond's claims were under investigation. The media caught wind fast. The story exploded across headlines. DNA disaster, millionaire's lab mix-up blamed for paternity lie. She said he was the father. Turns out she was right. Marcus Saunders's mistress linked to hospital. Scandal photos of Marcus and Nicole appeared side by side with grainy screenshots of the forged documents. Comment sections lit up with outrage, disbelief, and sympathy for Emily. Public sentiment turned swiftly against Marcus. His reputation, once pristine, now lay in shambles. Lucent Holdings froze his assets and demanded an internal review of all contracts he'd handled in the last 2 years. Marcus was forced to take an indefinite leave. Meanwhile, Nicole Anderson disappeared from the public eye entirely. Rumors swirled she had left the country, checked into a wellness retreat in Switzerland, or had quietly cut ties to avoid being subpoenaed. Then, just as Emily began to feel like her life was stabilizing again, there came the knock. It was Marcus. He stood on her parents' porch, soaked from a spring storm, holding nothing but his car keys and an expression she didn't recognize. Raw, broken, ashamed. Annalise opened the door and hesitated. "Emily, it's him." Emily came to the door slowly. "Why are you here?" Marcus looked like a shell of his former self. His eyes were bloodshot. His coat clung to him like a second skin heavy with rain. "I need to talk to you," he said quietly. She crossed her arms. "Say what you need to say." "I didn't know," he began. "I didn't know Nicole did it. I didn't authorize the switch. I didn't stop her either. That makes me just as guilty. I let her tell me what I wanted to hear. I let her turn me against you." Emily said nothing, watching him with cold, tired eyes. Marcus took a shaking breath. When the second test came out, and when the hospital admitted the mistake, I felt like the floor opened under me. You were right all along, and I didn't believe you. "No, you didn't," Emily said, her voice sharp. "You wanted out. You wanted an excuse, and Nicole handed it to you." He dropped his gaze. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I probably ruined any chance at being in your life. But I want to be a father. I want to do right by our child. If you'll let me, I'll be there. I'll support you. Not just with money, with presence, with responsibility." Emily took a long breath. Part of her wanted to scream at him, slam the door in his face, make him feel every ounce of hurt he'd inflicted. But another part, perhaps the mother in her, knew she needed to think beyond revenge. "You can be involved," she said, "but not because I trust you, because our child deserves to know their father. You'll go through the lawyers. There will be boundaries, clear ones, and if you cross them again, I won't hesitate to cut you out." Marcus nodded. "I understand." He turned to leave, but paused. "Thank you for giving me even that much." When the door shut behind him, Emily leaned against it and closed her eyes. She didn't feel relief exactly, but she felt something better resolve. She had faced the worst, and she was still standing. Emily sat by the window of her childhood bedroom in Fairview, watching leaves flutter past the glass as the wind stirred the trees. The world outside was quiet, almost peaceful in stark contrast to the whirlwind that had engulfed her life in recent months. Inside her heart, a storm still raged, a mixture of betrayal, humiliation, heartbreak, and the quiet resolve that only a mother-to-be can summon when protecting her child. The paternity test from St. Adalbert's Hospital had rocked her to her core. For days she replayed the moment in her mind, Dr. Rosenberg's words, Marcus's cruel expression of vindication, Nicole's smug satisfaction. But the most agonizing part was the disbelief reflected in everyone's eyes. How could Marcus believe for a second that she had been unfaithful? How could he doubt her so completely? Her father, Thomas, had tried to comfort her. Her mother, Annalise, made tea and stroked her hair while she sobbed. But it was Sarah, her childhood friend and fearless investigative journalist, who became the catalyst for hope. Sarah's voice echoed with determination that afternoon in Emily's room. "I don't buy it, Em. Something's wrong. That lab technician Raymond Clark getting fired. The timing. It doesn't add up. You said it yourself, you've been faithful. So either the test is wrong, or someone made it wrong." Emily stared at her friend. Why would anyone do that? Who would gain from tampering with a hospital test? Sarah leaned forward, tapping her temple. "Marcus or Nicole. Think about it. If the test says the baby isn't his, Marcus gets everything. No child support, no divorce settlement, no messy public scandal tying him to a child he didn't want. Nicole gets to keep him to herself, and you're out in the cold. It's calculated." Emily's heart pounded. It made a horrifying kind of sense. Sarah set to work immediately. Within 72 hours, she'd uncovered the firing of Raymond Clark, the former technician, and tracked down rumors of misconduct and lab irregularities. She found whispers of an anonymous donor connected to St. Adalbert's, someone who had funneled a substantial charitable sum to the hospital just days before Emily's test. It was enough to rattle even Emily's steely composure. Then came the call that changed everything. It was Raymond himself, shaky and terrified. "I shouldn't be doing this," he said over the phone, "but I can't live with it. The samples, I think they were switched. The test was manipulated." Emily's breath caught. She clutched the phone tighter. "Are you sure I saw the names?" "Saunders. I saw the switch happen. And then I was told to keep quiet. They said it was a mistake, a necessary correction. But I knew something wasn't right. I pushed back and I got fired. I have some documents, but I need legal protection if I'm going to hand them over." Emily didn't hesitate. She called Denise Caldwell, her lawyer, who arranged a safe meeting at a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town. Emily, Sarah, Denise, and Raymond sat in a dim booth with steaming cups of coffee untouched on the table. Raymond pulled out a manila folder like it was radioactive. "This is everything I have. Internal emails, irregular chain of custody logs, conflicting technician signatures. Your samples were marked, altered, swapped." Denise's brows furrowed as she flipped through the evidence. "These aren't just irregularities," she said sharply. "This is deliberate fraud." Emily's eyes burned with tears, but this time they weren't from helplessness. They were from the raw, undeniable truth, finally breaking through the web of lies. She had been right. All along she had known the truth in her bones, and now she had proof. Denise moved quickly. She contacted the hospital's legal department with a formal complaint, demanding an internal investigation and threatening a lawsuit for medical malpractice and reputational damage. The hospital's administrators, blindsided and panicked, scrambled to respond. Within a week, the head of the genetics department resigned quietly. An internal review found severe procedural failures surrounding the handling of Emily's test. That same week, the results of the second paternity test, conducted at a reputable lab in Fairview, arrived. Emily sat in Dr. Collins's office, the paper shaking in her hands as she read the words, "Marcus Saunders, 99.9% probability of paternity." Emily broke into quiet sobs. "Doctor." Collins reached over and squeezed her shoulder gently. "You were telling the truth all along. The media caught wind of the scandal after Sarah's exposé went live online. Headlines spread like wildfire. Millionaire's Mistress bribed lab to forge DNA test. Saunders' empire shaken by paternity tampering scandal, from glamour to courtroom. The rise and fall of Marcus Saunders. Emily's face was splashed across social media, along with a flattering pregnancy photo Sarah had insisted they take for the article. Public sentiment rallied behind her. She became a symbol of resilience, a woman wronged not only by her husband, but by a powerful system manipulated to protect him. Lucent Holdings issued a statement distancing themselves from Marcus. The board demanded accountability, and Marcus was forced to take a leave of absence. Nicole Anderson. She vanished, rumored to have fled to Europe, her name now forever entangled with a legal and ethical catastrophe. One rainy evening, Emily sat curled on the sofa in her parents' living room, when a knock echoed at the door. Annalise answered it, returning moments later with a guarded expression. "It's Marcus." Emily's body tensed. "Let him in," she said softly. Marcus stepped inside, drenched his suit, wrinkled his eyes, red-rimmed. He looked nothing like the powerful mogul she had once admired. He looked lost. He sat across from her, silent at first, then cleared his throat. "Emily, I was wrong." She didn't speak. I didn't know what Nicole was planning. I swear it. But I believed the result. I let it feed into every doubt I had. And I let you go. I let you suffer. Emily's voice was quiet but steady. You didn't just let me suffer. You wanted to believe the worst about me. You chose the easy way out. Marcus looked down. I've lost everything. My job, my reputation. Nicole left me. He paused. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I want to try to be there for the baby, even if you never let me near you again. Emily's throat tightened. She placed a hand protectively over her belly. That's not something you earn with an apology, Marcus. It takes showing up. It takes putting someone else before yourself. Can you even do that? He nodded solemnly. I want to. I'll do anything. I'll pay support. I'll sign whatever you want. She stood. We'll go through the lawyers. I'll allow you into the child's life if you prove you're serious. But as for us, I don't think I can ever go back. Marcus wiped his eyes. I understand. He left quietly, and the door clicked shut behind him. Emily stood in the quiet, her body trembling not with grief but with release. The next morning, she stepped outside into the early spring sun. The air smelled like fresh earth and renewal. With the weight of Marcus's lies behind her and her baby's future in her hands, Emily breathed deeply. The path ahead would be hers to walk on her own terms. Months later, Emily gave birth to a healthy baby boy named Ethan. Despite the pain Marcus had caused, she allowed him to be present in the delivery room. Tears streamed down his face at the first cry of his son, a testament to the bond they both now shared. Although the divorce ultimately went through, Marcus remained committed to supporting Ethan financially and emotionally, striving to mend at least part of the havoc his betrayal had wrought. Looking back, Emily realized that her darkest hour paved the way for profound strength and self-discovery. The truth that emerged from the twisted DNA test not only vindicated her, but also illuminated the path forward on, where she no longer felt like a powerless spectator. She was a survivor, a mother and a woman determined to write her own destiny. With Ethan in her arms, she embraced a new chapter ready to craft a brighter tomorrow. Thank you for joining me on this roller coaster of betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimate redemption. If this gripping tale of shocking DNA results, broken trust, and unbreakable parental love captured your imagination, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel for more dramatic, real-life stories and enthralling content. Your support helps our community grow and allows us to keep sharing unforgettable tales. What did you think of Emily's journey? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay tuned for more extraordinary stories that prove sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.